Hey folks, welcome to this week's episode of What's Bruin, being recorded live. As always, I am your host, as always, joined by my co-host Dominic Tiano, and today we have an incredible guest. Before we bring him on, real quick, Dom, how are you this week? How you been?
Doing great. Got my new glasses, even though they look the same. I can see now. You've had surgery in both your eyes, and you can see.
We can
So,
both see.
yeah.
Awesome. But you know what? It's not as awesome as bringing on our guest. I'm not going to wait any longer. The wonderful Court Lalonde. Court, it's been a long time. How are you? Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been over 2 years since I've been doing Bruins content. I'm pretty sure I can give you the exact date, but we won't get into that one. It's pretty easy for me to figure that one out.
Well, welcome back to the world of Bruins content. And before we dive into the team, the season, the upcoming year, share with our folks where they can find where you're going to be doing and producing content and whatnot.
Well, I'm gonna leave the podcast to everybody else because I do video game stuff, but I'm gonna be taking over Bruins Diehards, but I'm gonna be doing YouTube only content. While I've been gone from doing Bruin stuff, lamenting in my anger towards the franchise for a little bit there, I learned a lot about YouTube and doing all those kind of things. So I'm doing solely Boston Bruins content on Bruins Diehards. You can find it on YouTube. I'll be doing recaps, probably about 2 videos a week. And what I'll be just doing is focusing on Bruins news, sprinkle in some NHL stuff every now and then, because sometimes even NHL news does relate to the Boston Bruins as much as the fan base doesn't want to get it. And it's not going to be outlandish takes. So if you think I'm going to be putting up some clickbaity stuff like, Draisaitl to Boston for Allmark, yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm going to be taking articles and news pieces from reliable sources or people that I find reliable, and I'm going to be sharing it to the people on YouTube at the same time as sourcing and, sprinkling in, some pictures. I would love to put some hockey video in there, but you can't. I tried it once. Man, the copyright strikes come down on you real quick. But yeah, and I'll be on Twitter, and I'll be probably guesting on some podcasts here and there, and looking forward to the hockey season.
Hopefully a few times more on here as well. It's been a quiet week overall for the Bruins, just because they're not
really
playing.
No,
but
Oscar
Not
Steen,
really.
well, I said overall compared to
No.
season.
The biggest news, and I've been bitching about this for over a year.
I know where you're going with it.
And especially when the season ended, when you asked me, where does the fault lie? And one of the things I said to you that I was really peeved about is they didn't have a coach on the bench to coach the defensemen. And we saw all 6 of them regress last season. And I said, one of the first things they need to do is go out and hire a coach to coach the defensemen. We can sit here and argue whether Jay Leach is the right guy or not, if you want to, but they absolutely needed to do something back there.
You were the first person I thought of when I saw that story break.
I think Leach is a great coach. I think he's done fantastic stuff in Providence. I think if I'm Jim Montgomery, it's a little eerie because the last time they brought the coach up from Providence, the other coach didn't make it past 2 years. But
he is entering the last year of his contract. So
Monty's done a great job. I don't want to start a rumor that Leach is taking Monty's job, but Boston. If history has ever taught us anything about the Boston Bruins organization, if Monty falters, they already have his replacement.
That's what I was going to say. Is it more so someone?
Is he the replacement, or is Joe Sacco, who got promoted to associate coach?
Associate coach. Can I ask you, I even tried to Google that, and there's not really much of an explanation of what an associate coach is.
Associate coach takes on the exact same duties as the head coach. Whereas your assistants, they focus on one area, maybe 2.
So they do more they
do more head coaching than systematic coaching.
So they're probably going to be doing more power play, and Monty's going to be doing more of the breaking down the plays. Because I know for a fact is behind the scenes here, I have witnessed what happens after practices and after a game on how they break down film, and they'll literally have guys in different rooms where at Warrior, where their workout room is, there's actually video rooms right beside it.
Yeah.
So there's 2 separate offices there, and then there's the coach's office. So there's 3 offices there, and they'll actually have like a power play room and then a breakdown the film room. So my guess is they would probably even split that up almost, because now that they have Leach, who is, very smart hockey guy, and then
Mhm.
they have Sacco, and then they have Monty, they could almost, specialize in sections of the
Yeah.
forward group and the defense, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, like BG here says, hopefully Jay Leach helps with the breakouts. One other comment I had heard at one point was hopefully one of them knows how to count to 5. So,
Yeah, but that's on the players. Like, hey, let's be totally honest.
Yeah, that's always
That's
on the players.
always on the
I
players.
agree.
Man.
Always.
That's so
It's
on
just
the
a
players.
humorous comment, though.
Yes, but the Bruins actually didn't have that much issues with breaking out the puck. The way they exit the zone is actually very good. They had a lot more issues. It wasn't the defense who had the issues. It was a lot more issues. This is my opinion. The forward group had a lot of issues carrying the puck over the zone and keeping possession. Heinen was phenomenal at it. DeBrusk he lost the puck a lot when he would try and enter the zone. They miss a guy like Krejci, who was like a magician entering the zone with the puck.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having your defense having to do it, and Lowry was doing it a lot and having to carry that load, that's going to be an issue. Like, the Bruins need someone that can carry the puck into the zone and not have to rely, because the defense, their seam passes from Lindholm, Lowry, and McAvoy during the playoffs, as much as people want to dunk on McAvoy, how he played in the playoffs, they were great. Like, they got the puck up the ice very good. They were getting behind the Florida players and the forward group and the defense. They were doing the plays properly. I think the bum hit from Pasta because he had just no speed, and Marchand looked a shell of himself. Like, there's issues more on the forward group than there is on the defense. I think Leach can just make them play better cohesive defense, because their penalty kill for the first time ever wasn't the best.
Yeah, their penalty kill this year definitely seems like it took more of a step back than in years previous. And I know this year we leaned a lot on Hampus Lindholm, and he didn't have the offensive production that everybody was looking for from now 2 seasons ago. And he even said at the end of the season that he wants more of an offensive role. So I wonder if this is a way that they have that extra set of eyes to kind of help make sure that the hard minutes get more of a balance in there.
I will say this: Jay Leach and John Gruden coach very similarly.
Yeah,
and
John Gruden.
What John Gruden did with that defense 2 seasons ago is what Jay Leach can do with it this upcoming season. Last season, or this season, whatever you want to call it, we didn't have a guy back there to coach him. He was upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think John Gruden being snagged from the coaching staff was a very underthought move that, I mean, you and I talked about it. I know how much you were talking about it on here, but I think it was much more understated after it happened and not focused on enough. And hopefully Leach is able to help bring that back. And Shaz is chiming in saying they changed Lindholm's usage from last year, which is why his offense dropped off. Yeah, a lot of people don't see it that way, though. That's the thing.
Bruins fans don't see a lot. And I'll stop. But
go ahead.
No. I just don't want to insult people. I actually just thought of something. The Bruins invented, and I shouldn't use the word invented, but the Bruins started using a 2-goalie system way back in the day with Reggie Lemelin and Andy Moog, and they perfected it in the 90s. And then that kind of like went away, but they just did this again with Hudobin and Rask. They've done a very good job of sheltering. This new system with an associate coach and a head coach, they might be on to something. Like, this might be a big brain move by Sweeney here to have more Chiefs on the bench. And it might actually turn out to be a good thing, because then Monty can actually coach instead of having to worry about all these different groups and things like that. Like, maybe they have, Sacco takes care of the power play. Like,
I think Kelly's looking after the power.
Someone's got to look after it because it's bad.
We need to know who to blame for that one.
I'll tell you who to blame. Blame the refusal to hire Mark Savard.
Oh, yeah, right. Andrew says,
Is there something in the organization they just don't want anything to do with him? Because here in Toronto, it's pretty much he signed a contract with the Leafs and they just haven't announced it yet. But
Yeah.
I think he has too.
I keep hearing that Savard connected to Toronto as well.
Friedman once Friedman said it on 32 Thoughts, I was like, oh, this is a done deal. Like he doesn't mention the guy connected to the Leafs if he's not connected to the Leafs, right?
Yeah,
but
in some way.
I'm wondering something about it, like, and this is just my opinion here, but Neely has a habit of not liking some of the former players in the Bruins organization, and maybe that
ask yourself this question: why is Ray Bork not involved with the organization?
Dom, I already know that answer. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't say that. Why is a lot of people? Why is it when they did the 100th anniversary and they're all walking on the ice, everybody was shaking hands, no one hugged Cam Neely? But like we can. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, me too.
All right. No.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. We'll pull up Andrew's comment here. It says, I can't shake the thought this D is still too soft. No real nasty outside of McAvoy.
Andrew's got to move off of this kick. It's like, Andrew, I love you, man. I really do. But when you repeat the same message over and over again, it ain't going to make it happen.
And second of all, Peak and Witherspoon, they're both nasty. All right. They both, and it doesn't, you can be nasty, but people have to realize that the Florida Panthers, who are probably going to win the Stanley Cup tonight, are one of the most skilled and fastest teams in the league, but at the same time can hit if they need to. But Tkachuk has been effective against the Edmonton Oilers, and guess what he's not doing? He's not doing stupid things. He's actually just playing solid defense. He's not taking his body out of the play because he knows that Edmonton's speed will burn him. I've actually been very impressed with the way Tkachuk has played against the Edmonton Oilers. People are like, well, he's out of the game. I'm like, he's actually not. He's decided not to take himself out of the body. Two things that and people can say it using the word soft or using the word they need toughness or grit. Those three things, there's no intangible metric that I can even see what that is. Because don't tell me body checking, because half the time the league doesn't call a check. And 9 times out of 10, the way these guys check in the league nowadays, they're taking themselves out of the play. A body check is supposed to be used to hit a player to get the puck. Plain and simple. That's why it was there. That's why it's in the game. If you use a body check to take yourself out of a play, you're going to get burned. Just ask the Leafs, because the Boston Bruins beat them on many goals this playoffs because the Toronto Maple Leafs decided we're going to be tough. And the Boston Bruins were like, we're just going to be smart. You need to be tough and smart. You can't just be tough in this league anymore, and you need to be able to skate. So if we bring a bunch of goons in here, we're not going to score goals. The Boston Bruins lost to the Florida Panthers because they couldn't score. Not because they couldn't be tough. Paul Maurice said that the Boston Bruins were the hardest team he has played in the playoffs so far. He said if they played another series against the Boston Bruins, he doesn't think they would have made it. The guys would have been dead. And he said that last year, and he said this year. The Boston Bruins are one of the toughest teams in the league, but they need to start scoring. They need to score goals.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't win games when you don't score.
In 2019, that team scored goals. And yes, they lost Bergeron and they lost Krejci. And if you look at Zaka and Coyle's production, it matches. But like I said this in a video I did the other day, you know who would look great in a Boston Bruins uniform and he would get like 30 goals? Is Tyler Toffoli. He can skate. He's got a Stanley Cup pedigree. He plays tough, whatever the heck that means nowadays. But he can score goals. He goes to the dirty areas. We don't have like a Nathan Horton type player anymore that goes to the net with the puck. And like that's what Florida did. That's how they beat us. They just kept going on Swayman over and over again. Swayman can't make the third save. He can make the first one, but he can't make the third one.
Yeah, and he made the second, third, and fourth so many times during the series against the Panthers that eventually something was going to get through.
Like Dom, if Sweeney tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Go out there and find me," because people need to realize there's no number one center out there. And it's very rare that you're even going to be able to get one in a trade nowadays because teams don't do that anymore. They lock these guys up. You look at the UFAs because Boston's got $20 million in cap. After the $8 million goes to Swayman, they've got what? There's the math. Sorry, 12 million. They got 12 million left because Swayman's getting 8. Who are they going out to go get?
here's what I would like. I would like a center. I would like another winger, and I would like a defenseman. Defenseman doesn't have to be expensive. It's just we know who our 6 defensemen are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's nobody in Providence to be the 7th defenseman. If you can get somebody to push Waterspoon down to number 7, who can play with Peak and can shed Lowry some relief in playing with McAvoy and swap out from time to time, that's the type of guy. 12 million probably isn't enough, which
But
means
could you
you've
get
got
like a veteran? Like look at Tampa. Like I thought Dumba was finished, and then he played
See,
in the
the
playoffs
name
with
that I
Tampa.
look at for that kind of defenseman is Alec Martinez.
Yeah, as someone that like
He's a little older than I would like.
he's a
but I
lot
think
older.
you can get him cheap enough that as a third pairing guy that can kind of mix in for Lori a little bit. That's the
He's
type
won
of
cups,
guy.
sure. It's just his legs are gone. As
Mhm.
someone that I watch a lot of Vegas Golden Knight hockey, and I am definitely biased towards that hockey club. I'll say that right now. But Alex Martinez was a shell of himself, and he got to play with Alex Pietrangelo. And if Alex Martinez gets his way, he'll go to Vegas for nothing to go
Yeah.
play back there because Pietrangelo shelters them and makes up for his. Martinez is just so slow out there. And in Bruins, the Bruins, the way their system works, believe it or not, a very slow defenseman can be caught very easily. Their defense need to be very mobile back there. That's why Krug used to, as much as everybody loved him, Krug every now and then got burned a lot because he had a hard time turning and going the other way. He has no issue going up the ice. He had a hard time turning and going the other way. They need, I don't know. I don't know why I like him, but I looked at Dumba in the playoffs and I was like, he'll come for nothing, first of all. And he looked good on Tampa somehow.
He did.
He
He
did look
did.
good on Tampa. And that's what you like. Shattenkirk played decent until the end of the season when he was gassed. He's just old and gassed. But what if you could get Dumba at a league min and bring him in?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up Mike's comment here, asking Court your thoughts on the defensive pairing. Since we're talking about the defense right now, based on our conversation, I'm saying I don't think they need to go out and get a top 4 guy.
No, they already have their top 4 is done.
You know, it doesn't hurt to add a quality player though.
The rumor of Chikrin, I don't mind that deal. I really don't. I
don't
see a lot of positives in that deal because then that solves your issue that you were talking about, right, Dom? And
Right.
and your cap is almost a wash. You're actually gaining cap space on that deal.
A little bit, yeah.
But let's be honest here. The odds of Ottawa being on Allmark's list, well, it could be, but it's pretty slim. But I look at their top 4 and I say Lori, Lindholm, McAvoy, and Carlo is one of the best top 4 in the league. After what I saw from Lowry in the playoffs, that kid's ready. Like he played better in his first playoff than McAvoy did.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
By far. Lowry commanded play. He had the announcers here in Canada talking about him.
Mhm.
Like CBC, all those guys were talking about how good he was. He didn't shy away from the body. He played like a guy that had played in the playoffs before. He played fantastic. And he was confident out there. And when he made a mistake, he went out and fixed the mistake. So I think the Bruins defense is not a big issue. And I agree with Dom. I think they just need one guy in that bottom pair.
Yeah, that's what I'm
somebody who's no more money than Peak. You know, that $2.5 million range.
Even lower. Get him at $1 million.
Even lower, you know. I mean, that's what I would do. As I know you've got 2 names in mind. You know, is Elias Lindholm the guy? I don't know. I mean, I love him as a player, but Stevenson may be the route to go, and then find yourself a winger.
I just think Stevens is the cheaper option.
Yeah, I'm
and
a
he
firm
can play
believer.
defense. He can play on the PK. Like people don't realize how good he is 2-way.
Yeah, I'm just a firm believer that Matthew Poitras can be that guy in a couple of years, and
I agree.
You know.
Yeah, and I think Stevenson you could get on a shorter term deal too, as opposed to Lindholm.
But even him, he's what? Stevenson's what, 29 or 30, 31? He's 29.
29 going on. He'll be
Going on
30
30.
sometime next season.
One of the fastest skaters in the league.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, I mentioned off the air, Bruce puts him out 20 minutes a night. Like he puts him out in he plays second power play and he plays first PK and he scores short. Imagine him and Marshy on the PK together. It would be like, it wouldn't be Bergeron Marchand again, but you'd have two guys that could score shorthanded goals at will because they got that breakaway speed when they need it to get behind the defense. And I think that leaves you more room because we all know Lindholm just turned down 7x7, right? Now,
Yeah.
Merrick just said something on the Merrick show when he had Friedman on that had me thinking. He thinks it might not be the money why he's leaving Vancouver. He thinks it's because in Vancouver, and if you look, he lost 2 minutes on average a night playing time by going to Vancouver because he's now a third line center instead of first line center. He's no longer power play 1. He's not power play 2, and he's PK 1, but he's lost a lot of ice time. It might be about the ice time with him. Because like all these players want him to be there, yet he puts out that Instagram post like bye to Vancouver. Like he's gone. He ain't coming back. And Vancouver just signed Philip Hornick today and spent all that money that they were going to give to Lindholm.
Yeah. For 7.5, was it
that's
not?
Such a terrible contract.
I think so. 8 years.
Yeah, it's such a bad deal. But then I look at Lindholm would be great, and he's that shiny toy. But I think the Bruins are in a like last year was a let's see what we can do stage, and they still were in top of the league. You could replace if you could get a guy like Stevenson, and I said to Foley or somebody on the wing that can score goals. Like Jesus, even Tarasenko got almost 30 goals last year. Like just get somebody that can score goals. I think it's a better get two guys for the price of one because let's be honest here, Jake DeBrusk ain't coming back. He's gone. And which is so sad because somebody lost his job over this guy, but now he ain't even going to come back.
Let me. We won't call this a Dom bomb, but I heard on the weekend that the gap between the two has closed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but nowhere near enough to make a deal imminent.
I heard he wants 7. That's a lot.
Enough to keep the lines of communication open, but it doesn't sound to me, from everything that I've been told, doesn't sound to me like the Bruins came up at all from their offer and that it was DeBrusk that was coming down.
Well, I believe Don Sweeney when he said that I've given what we think is a fantastic offer. And if you look at it, like, yes, Jake played great. And I did a whole video and I started going into the numbers and I used Dom's article and I put that in the source. Dom, you did a phenomenal article talking about DeBrusk isn't inconsistent. He is streaky, but he isn't inconsistent. He does get you these things over and over again. I think my issue with the guy is his attitude. I just think you can replace his goals and you'll be fine. And you could find a guy cheaper because if he's asking for 7, I don't know, man. You can get guys that are a lot cheaper that can score his goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to pay for a guy like that when every now and then he does take nights off. He'll have like great games. In Dom's article, Dom pointed out Bergeron and Marchand actually are more streaky than Jake DeBrusk is. But when DeBrusk takes a night off, he takes the whole night off, which is just, it drives me insane. It's like he's not even on the ice.
Yeah, real quick, going back to the defense, Albin said, speaking of nasty, my ideal pretty cheap partner for McAvoy would be Middleton from the Wild. He can play nasty, but is not chasing it. Would you like the fit? Who's your ideal partner for McAvoy?
I will say this about Middleton because I know his family very well. They don't live more than 5 blocks from me. And that the majority of his family, including him, are Bruins fans. Well, he was a Bruins fan growing up, and he would love the idea. I just don't know that what it would cost to acquire him would be worth it.
Yeah.
The Bruins don't have the assets, just like that Ferraro everybody was talking about. And I did a video on that. we're not willing to give up Lowry or any of those guys because these teams, San Jose, Minnesota, they're not giving these guys up for nothing. And you're going to have to overpay. And the issue with the Boston Bruins, and it's going to continue this way if we keep trying to fill the cupboard with what we got, is they don't have any prospects. They don't have a pick in the first couple rounds this year, and they need a pick. Like, that's why I like the Allmark to Ottawa deal, just because I was like, you get a first round pick and you get a defenseman, but you get a pick. Like, it's not the greatest draft, but if you can get in that top 10, like, wow. It's just, I know Dom kind of feels the same way. I just want the Bruins to just draft some players, man. Fill up that cupboard, because a lot of other teams have been very good at being able to still draft, like, and not have to trade away all their picks, but still play decent hockey.
Yeah, Brendan asks, if Allmark deal is going to happen, when is it most likely to happen? Before the draft, at the draft, after July 1st, or other?
At the draft.
No, I think
Really?
deals like this will happen
if a pick is involved. Sorry.
A few days before the draft. That's when the majority of the trades happen, because once you get into free agency and after that, everybody's pretty well gotten what they want. They've either traded at the draft or they've signed the guys at free on July 1st.
Yeah, I feel like it would come maybe 3 or 4 days before the draft if it involves a pick. If it involves players, then yeah, you might see it happen just after the draft. But if anything, I feel like it'd be for a pick. Shaz also mentioned New Jersey's.
It's hard. It's hard to give. I would love, Dom. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could draft? We could draft a Ginla's kid. Oh, I've seen him play. He's good.
I don't know that. If you listen to Fitzy's words, it's not like he came straight out and said he would trade the 10th overall pick for a goaltender.
Yeah, and
he said he would
if he was going to do it.
Yeah, if it was Markstrom, I think he would have done it.
Yep.
But it would have been a bigger deal, something more involved.
Yeah, because you guys said money that way. But
yeah,
that's where it's not going for Allmark.
No.
Ottawa would do it for a difference, because Ottawa needs to. People have to understand Ottawa needs to overpay because it's not a destination where players want to go. So for Ottawa to do it,
young talented players locked up already.
Well, that too, but they need a goalie, and I think Allmark actually would be amazing in Ottawa. But Ottawa has to make the decision before anything, even these rumors. Ottawa has to make a decision on whether they're going to sign Chychrun. Chychrun has played better in Ottawa than he has in Arizona. Statistically, physically, eye test, whatever you want to look at. He's played better in Ottawa. He's had some of his best games in his career playing for the Ottawa Senators. It's just whether Ottawa is willing to give him $8 million plus a year. And that's what their decision's being made. So I think if this rumored deal was actually given to Don Sweeney, the deal would have already happened. Why would Don Sweeney say no to a first round pick and a top 4 defenseman that he's been trying to trade for years?
Yeah. My thought is, I think he was offered one or the other.
No, I think it's both.
No, it wasn't. It was both. Sweeney has wanted Chychrun since the draft, but then McAvoy fell and they grabbed McAvoy.
Yeah.
I will say this. And my good friends over at Bench Rates, I believe, were the ones that came out with this today on Twitter. Ottawa would be better off to trade Thomas Chabot and keep Jacob Chychrun.
Agreed.
Because at the same stage of their career, Chychrun outperformed Chabot.
The question is can you get someone to buy Chabot from them?
It's a lot of money.
Chychrun is the best defenseman now, and I think they know this now, because they have a smart team there now in Ottawa. They have a smart GM. They know what they've got, and that's why I think, yes, these rumors can be out there, and I do think when a Canadian team's involved, the rumor gets out quicker. Am I wrong here, Dom?
I think you're right.
There's more mouths and more ears.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. And I think this is a true rumor. I think this is a true thing that's on the table. And I think Sweeney's probably already said, yeah, I'll do the deal. And Ottawa's like, and they're really having to think about this one. But then other deals are going to come along. I think Allmark is all but gone. Like, he's gone. I don't see him coming back. They tried to trade him and he denied it. There's no going back on this one. And we all know what happened. You see Swayman, what he says to him when they hug after we all heard about that rumor. Like, he says to him on the ice, "You're staying here." Like, he says it. Like, it definitely happened. Who knows what it was in LA or wherever it was at West. But if you're Linus Ullmark, I would love for him to be back, because I think that's one of the reasons the Bruins are as good as they are, because they have two of the best goalies in the league. But you do the deal if you can do it. But Allmark's going to go, but he's not getting you Leon Draisaitl. He's not getting you anything. Right now, he wouldn't even get you the 10th pick in New Jersey. I don't see New Jersey trading that pick for Linus Ullmark.
I don't think they're desperate enough. I hear they're still high on their own guys. Dawes and Schmid, they're still pretty high.
Ullmark is one of the best goalies in the league. Let's be real here. But the goalie market, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dom, is not as high as people think it is.
It's not.
When it comes to return.
It's not. You get the odd 9th overall pick for Corey Schneider type trade. And Sweeney actually alluded to that in his end of year meeting with the media, but that doesn't happen every year.
No.
You might see that once in a generation, that type of trade.
Yeah, and Kevin points out Ullmark's gone only if the right trade comes about. Sweeney isn't going to trade him.
Yeah, I agree. Sweeney doesn't have to move Ullmark.
No,
Ullmark's willing to play another year.
The only reason why I would see Sweeney taking less on an Ullmark deal in return is because there's a free agent that he knows he can get with just a little extra money that he would need to free up.
Would he be able to get a boatload of guys for him at the trade deadline? Because the team that's desperate going into the playoffs, they could get something for Ullmark. So he either trades him right before the draft, like Dom said, or he doesn't trade him at all until the trade deadline if he's going to move him. There's a reason Sweeney's not as dumb as people want to say he is. He is
he gets
dumb.
ripped in Boston for so much, even though the only counter argument to it is, 2015. It's like, yeah, but if you look at everything else he's done since that draft, he doesn't make
even drafts
bad moves.
Dom, great. The draft isn't all on the GM, man.
No, it's not. I agree.
Like 30 guys at that table.
All I'm saying is that's a counter argument as to why does Don Sweeney suck? Oh, well, because 2015 draft. Okay, but everything else he's done well since. Like, Tom, I know you're breaking down his draft history, and overall it's been solid drafting based on where they're drafting, and overall his signings and his trades, like he does good moves. He doesn't make the dumb move.
He's very good at re-signing players. Like, he's usually very good at, and he's very good at, for some reason, getting those plus 33 players to play for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised if Patrick Maroon comes back for a 1-year deal at nothing.
At like $900K.
Like, I have no doubt in my mind that Heinen will come in at like just under 3, like 2.75 is my guess. He's gonna resign. He loves Boston. He didn't want to go in the first place. Heck, Sweeney didn't want to trade him. The only time Sweeney wanted to trade Danton Heinen, and here I'll give a little tidbit, is when he was going to be traded to the Vancouver Canucks right before the pandemic. Pandemic hit, the Boston Bruins had a trade in place pretty much to send Danton Heinen and more with curling Matt Grzelcyk to the Vancouver Canucks for Brock Besser. It was like gonna happen, and they just had to get more pieces involved, and the pandemic hit. And then Neely took that as like, I can move this kid now because you told me you were going to move him. And so then they moved him for absolute garbage after the players came back.
Richie
needed toughness.
He was tough, all right.
Yeah.
Smelled tough.
Yeah. But he was gone. Like, they had a trade with the Vancouver Canucks for Brock Besser. It was like almost all but done.
Oh, man.
It's so much done that Heinen thought he was going there.
Peter asks, what roster player from New Jersey do you think Ullmark could fetch?
Honestly, I have no clue.
It's so dependent on so many things that it's impossible to say.
Yeah, and I know Court, you mentioned earlier Markstrom being involved. There's another wild card name out there too that I don't think he's going to ultimately end up getting moved, but UC Saros' name keeps getting thrown out there as well.
I don't think he's getting moved. Friedman. So you don't.
I don't think he's getting
You
moved.
don't get our radio, Chris. Friedman American. I'm sure you heard this, Don, because I know you listen to the
Yeah.
same stuff I do. He's not going anywhere anymore. He's
Oh,
not
that's
even a
confirmed?
name. He's when these two guys say it, he ain't going anywhere. Saros ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
I
sticking
get
around.
the delay version of the Jeff Merrick show because I get it in pod form.
Well, no, sort of, but we get it live. But like it was either on Merrick or 32 Thoughts. Remember when they talked about the Marner deal, or it even could have been like on Kiprios. I can't remember which one it was, and they were talking.
No,
about
it was 32 Thoughts. And
yeah, he said Marner for Saros and go down. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's already been reported out of Nashville. I forget who the writer was that quoted Trotz as saying, "Yeah, he'll be talking to him before the draft on a possible extension."
Yeah, he wants to extend him now.
Yeah,
I thought
I think the only way they were moving Saros is if it was for Marner, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like the Leafs, God love them. Oh my God, they're going to roll it back, and they're going to bring them all back. So
of course they are. Why wouldn't you? You're the Leafs.
unless you live in Ontario, close to Toronto, like Court and I do, you people honestly don't understand how funny it actually is.
it's the best. I was actually, when I heard the other day when it was somebody, I can't, it wasn't Merrick or Friedman. I think it was Kiprios. They talked about it with Jason Bourne. And then all of a sudden it was on the day, and then today it pretty much all got confirmed that like Marner's coming back. Treliving is working on a contract extension, not just Marner's coming back. He is working on an extension.
Is that what the Steve Dangle pod was about today? Because I had it queued up to watch it.
He did it, and then the news broke that they were working on an extension. So then Dangle put out the tweet. He was like, "I am so," because he wants them to blow it up. He's finally on the blow up side.
So bad.
And they're not going to do it. But like, I just looked at New Jersey's roster, and I look at like the Bruins' needs, and there's a lot of guys on long-term deals at high AAVs. Like, I don't know what none of it makes. You're not Eric Holla. That's not going to work.
No.
You can't take more than what you can't go over the $5 million you're given the other way because you don't want to take on cap.
Right.
New Jersey is not a good trade partner for the Boston Bruins.
No.
Plus like at all. What are you taking, Jake Allen? Like what?
Yeah.
Like it's not a good trade partner. New Jersey has a lot of guys locked up to term. And that's not a bad thing, but for the Bruins, it is.
Yeah, because most Bruins fans are looking at Mercer. And that's who they want back.
Who we want back and who we get back. Just like if Natchez for Allmark was a real thing, it would have happened already.
Right.
But the Bruins will have to give more than Allmark to get Natchez. Like I hope people get this.
They don't, but that's what we've been pounding our heads on the mics for, is it's going to cost more.
If the Bruins had a first-round pick in this year's draft, the deal's done. It's your first and your Allmark, and then you have Natchez, and you're also going to have to sign them to like $7 or $8 million a year. So people got to realize if Natchez is coming, it's Natchez. If Natchez is coming to the Boston Bruins, and that would be fantastic. All you have room is for him and Swayman and no one else.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have like $3 million in cap left.
Yeah, Brandon does have a good question though. If Allmark doesn't get traded, then what happens with Bussy? Vladar fetched a third. He at least had short-term NHL experience.
But why are we?
Well, he had 5 games.
Yeah,
but why are we trading Bussy? We don't have to.
Well,
the worry is the waiver.
You do if you don't want to risk losing him to waivers.
Yeah, you guess. Yeah. Well, the Bruins are so good at like flipping a coin, seeing if it happens.
If Natchez for Allmark was offered, I don't see Don Sweeney saying no.
No, the deal's be already done. Pasternak would like literally kill Sweeney if he didn't do that deal. You already have a guy on the team that is openly admit on Spitting Chicklets that he is like been telling Natchez how amazing it is in Boston. He didn't deny it. He was like, "Oh, I've talked to him."
Yeah,
but it's not. He's not a UFA, and
I mean,
Natchez is a potential 30 to 40 goal scorer. Am I wrong, Dom?
No, you're pretty much bang on there.
So Allmark's not. It's not a 1-for-1. This is not a Taylor Hall trade.
All you got to do is you got to go back a screen, go back to settings, turn on force trades, and then it can happen.
Well, no, I went in NHL. The trade will work in NHL, but Carolina ain't dumb, and they now have like, you've seen this GM's resume. He's like the smartest guy in the world.
Oh my
It's like
God.
a rocket science, for God's
Guy's
sake.
got like what, 3 PhDs?
Oh my God, he invented things. All right, he invented things. Like, this guy is, and he's a very analytic guy, and I see Tulsky trying to do another kick at the can and signing Natchez. I don't think Natchez. I think Natchez's dad, what he said to wherever that was in the check, I think that's real. I think that's why we're talking about it. I think that's why 32 Thoughts talks about it. All the podcasts are talking about it. But I think Natchez is Carolina's going to hit a home run in this trade, and they ain't going to be the one not hitting a home run in this trade, because they have a very, very. It's a guy who can play in your top 5, in your top 3, instantly in your top line, and the Bruins would want to try him at center.
Yeah,
he played center. It's a real thing. He did it.
Now,
including he played center with Pasternak and Zaka on his wing, for God's sakes. Jesus.
Yeah. I think that's who BG is referring to. He typed in Palat. I was going to ask you about Andres Palat, but I think that's
too much term, too much AAV. That makes no sense to bring him in. Great hockey player, but I think New Jersey, even at the time when they signed him, it was an overpay. That'd be a tough one. $6 million a year for the next till the end of 2026, 27.
Yeah.
To counter though, just to play devil's advocate here, you mentioned giving Natchez all that money in term.
Well, Natchez is getting you 30 goals. Palat's not doing that. Palat's a third liner. Why would I bring him in?
Just playing.
Yeah, I'm the Boston Bruins. I agree with. I am so full of third liners and fourth liners. I'm throwing out. I'm tripping over them. Like, someone else was putting out there. Like, I saw someone online saying, "Oh, Barclay Goodrow, who's about to be bought out." Everybody was like, "Oh, he's a Bruin." I'm like, he is not. We already have like 1 million Barclay Goodrows on this team. We need guys who can score. Like, I'll say this. If Jeff Skinner gets bought out by the Buffalo Sabres, Don Sweeney better be getting on that phone within seconds saying, "Hey, do you want to come to Boston? You're going to be sheltered. You won't have to worry about a thing. Just get us 20 goals." Because guess what he'll do? He'll get 20 goals in a heartbeat. He'll probably have one of his best seasons the last couple of years playing along on the wing on the Bruins. He's sheltered. He doesn't have to worry about anything, and he's not the big guy. All he's got to do is go out and score.
Just got to go out and play his game.
And he's still capable.
He is so capable. He played great. Like, New Jersey. I think New Jersey is so in on Markstrom. That's all we keep hearing on the radio here. That's all I read in articles. Markstrom to New Jersey. I think that they're trying to make that deal work. And I think it has a lot to do with, if I look at New Jersey right now, they have a lot of money on their books. They need to move money out to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where Markstrom ends up. And it's a trade that makes sense for both sides, because Calgary is not a place that many players have been really headed to in droves, we'll say. So, they need some players to come back, and they have other.
And Markstrom's already go there.
Yeah.
Like, we already know he all but said it in the media. Like, he agreed to go somewhere and it just didn't work out. So
yeah, Peter says, let's steal from the Sabres again.
Seriously. Skinner's going to get bought out. Torrey Krug's going to get bought out. I do not want him back. But Jeff Skinner?
No, we don't need Torrey Krug back.
I'll take Jeff Skinner all day long. And it's a nothing buyout for Buffalo. And they're going to buy him out. The
thing with Skinner, too, is very comparable to Taylor Hall. We saw the same type of thing, I think, happen with Taylor Hall, but it happened in one season where he went there. He got so beaten up by just being in that organization, where he just waved the white flag and said, "Get me the hell out of here. This is where I want to go. Make it happen." And
I didn't want to get a Taylor Hall because we didn't need to trade him in the first place, because we didn't end up having Bertuzzi come back. And that just annoys me, because Taylor Hall loved it in Boston. Yeah, and he could score goals. He could score goals, and he could play defense better than a lot of people gave him credit for. And he was only traded because they thought they were going to be bringing in Tyler Bertuzzi, that they were going to give him the $5 million a year on a 5. He would do a 5 times 5 with him, and he thought he could get more somewhere else, and he ended up getting a 1-year deal in Toronto for the exact same AAV that the Bruins were going to give him. But the Bruins spent it on JVR and Shattenkirk and all those guys, putting a whole bunch of guys together. But that money was for Bertuzzi, and that's why Hall got moved.
Now, do you think that Bertuzzi ends up coming back this offseason?
No. I just talked about it in my video. I think he is the quintessential Boston Bruin, but I think that those comments by Marshy in the dressing room on the video, that made me think that the dressing room don't like him that much no more. They look at it as a guy he decided to not play for that team, and the players know it. So that would be a tough one, because one thing about the Boston Bruins organization, the leadership core, not that they get a say, but they get input. I think that's a better way to say it, right, Tom? They have input.
Yes.
And I think it would be a tough one to have him come back after what Marchand, that captain, said in that dressing room. We all heard it. It's all on behind the B. He'd be great, but I think he's not coming back to the Leafs, because if they're rolling it back, they're just going to re-sign Domi, and Bertuzzi's going to be a free agent. But I have heard Freeman has said 0 words about Bertuzzi to the Boston Bruins on 32 Thoughts. 0. He said Detroit. A lot of people are saying Detroit, which is just crazy to me, but that's what they're saying.
But I could see him going back there.
Yeah,
I could see Detroit. I don't see Boston, though. I just don't see Boston. I think once he left, it became a non-factor for both sides going forward.
I think the best way to put it, Chris, and Court kind of touched on it, but the bridge has been burned.
Yeah. He was given a good offer, and he thought he could get better. And Sweeney made moves for this guy to re-sign, and it didn't happen. People don't forget, man.
That burned the bridge right there. Especially to your point, they moved Taylor Hall, like someone who wanted to be here, who they wanted to have here.
Hall loved it in Boston. Just like Heinen loves it in Boston. And people probably don't like Dylan Heinen as much as I do, but who doesn't like a Swiss Army knife on your bench at any times? Heinen can play literally anywhere. Heck, you could play that guy in defense if you really needed to.
They have. They used him on defense in overtime.
See?
So
he is literally the Swiss Army knife. And if you can get that kind of player for under $3 million a year, to get the production that he gives you, because it's not just, he's a Swiss Army knife that plays a defensive game well. The guy puts up numbers when he's with talented scorers. He's capable.
I've got a scorer for you, and Jesse's in the chat, and he's been saying it for years. But Matt Duchene wouldn't come at a very expensive AAV, and he played amazing in Dallas.
I wouldn't be against it. I really wouldn't. But
I wouldn't have him at center. I'd have him on the wing.
I would be okay with that.
I'm just looking at what Don Sweeney did last year. He's gonna do the same this year, guys. He's gonna sign Swayman, and there's your big chunk of cap. Okay, so your $8 million is gone. It's going to Swain. It's going to Swayman. But Sweeney's going to try, and if he strikes out on Lindholm, because as much as I don't want him to go for it, I think we both agree, Dom, he's going for it. He's going for
I think
Lindholm.
so. He's
going to go for Lindholm. He's wanted him for years, and Sweeney, once again, doesn't forget. Anytime he's wanted a guy, he's going to go for it. He's like Noah Hannafin when he finally signed in Vegas. I'm sure Sweeney was like, "Oh, come on," because he's been going in for years to get that guy. But I think if he strikes out on Lindholm, he's going to do bits and pieces and fill in the roster and let Patra get better and let this team get better, because they ain't winning a cup right now. So whatever. Sorry, people who are listening. I apologize, but it ain't gonna happen.
Kevin real quick wants to know, is this confirmed that they moved Hall to get Bertuzzi? Because I'm not buying it. Sweeney isn't one to get rid of a good player without the guarantee someone else is coming in. My thought is they probably did it for the intention of getting Bertuzzi. They probably had something going back and forth that he thought that was going to happen. But he's also not one.
Friedman said that the Bruins moved money to bring Bertuzzi back, and Bertuzzi thought he could get more. That's what was said on 32 Thoughts so long ago. So I'm assuming that money going out was Taylor Hall, because they wanted to re-sign Bertuzzi, and then Bertuzzi decided to go the other way. It is what it is. And then he signed a 1-year deal in Toronto.
Yeah, Kevin follows it up with, in my opinion, Hall was moved with Foligno because they had to fill out a roster to try and stay competitive. Jacobs wasn't going to allow a rebuild, especially with the 100th year season. I look at it this way, Kevin. I think Don Sweeney was looking at it as both. If he could bring in Bertuzzi, he had a couple of other targets that would have cost less than the he probably would have let young kids play through, and filled in with guys like Danton Heinen. He probably would have been on the team out of camp because he would have been on a league minimum contract. Like, he had other options.
He had options.
Don Sweeney makes moves with all options considered.
I think you're giving way too much credit to Sweeney. And also, can I ask, why do so many people still think it's like the 1970s with the Jacobs family? Like, Jacobs he's not even there anymore. His son spends the money. Like, they spend money, man. Like, they are very nice people. I just don't get it. Like, people still think it's like the 1970s with the Jacobs. They just want to win, and they'll spend money. They spend to the cap every freaking year since they brought in Zdeno Chara. Every year. Every year that team spends to the cap.
Sometimes over the cap.
Yeah, like, they are not cheap. And I don't think the 100th season had anything to do with it because they let Sweeney. There's only one meddler on that team, and it ain't the Jacobs, okay? It ain't.
It wasn't it Jacobs that offered Bobby Orr 10% ownership of the team?
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Jacobs, I look at them and I go, they have one job: sign the checks. And
no, they are definitely. Hold on, I'll say that they are definitely involved with the hockey club.
Oh, I agree. I believe.
But I am saying they are not the meddler that people think they are. They let Don Sweeney do his job.
Yes, I truly believe that. I'm just saying, as an owner, you have one job: sign the checks, and that's it. That's all I ask of you.
The Bruins are like the Leafs; they sell out regardless of the product on the ice.
Absolutely, ownership's not the problem. Let's see. Peter, we were talking about Lindholm earlier. His question, it seems like Lindholm has fallen off the past 2 years. Legit concern or an anomaly?
The numbers don't look good. That's why I said in my video, I'm like, I don't think he's the number one center. Mind you, he went to Vancouver and played fantastic again, but it could be that he was like, worried about the trades. But man, I'm sure you looked at the numbers, Dom. He hasn't played well.
I don't know. I consider Calgary the last year in Calgary and even after the trade a write-off.
Fair.
But you can't ignore the playoffs. You just can't.
He played well.
He played very, very well.
Playoffs are all that matters. Like, there's the amount of players that play great in the regular season. Heck, I have to watch a team that plays here every year and every Saturday night, unless the Bruins are playing. And that team is phenomenal in the regular season and absolutely horse poop in the playoffs. And they have one of the best goal scorers in the league that doesn't show up. But they blame everybody else but that guy. It was still hilarious. Their best player is William Nylander. But if a player plays well in the playoffs, figure it out. Just like Florida may sign Reinhart this summer, but they won't be able to sign Bennett the following. You run for that guy.
Yeah.
You run after that guy. You're like, what do you need? You're a Boston Bruin. Just figure it out.
So, Court, you mentioned Matt Duchene, short-term deal, low money. First of all, I'd love him on the left side of Pastrnak and Zacha. That'd be a nice little scoring line right there. Brendan mentions another name here, though. What about Steven Stamkos as a short-term solution in the top 6? I'm terrified of a 7-year deal for Lindholm.
He wants to be back in Tampa no matter what.
Wait, can we come back to this one?
Sure.
Because we got to go to Kevin's comment that goes back to 2 comments ago that needs an answer.
This one?
Right at the bottom.
Oh, this one. Oh, yeah. He wanted to clarify that he isn't one of the ones that thinks that just Jacobs are cheap. This is one Dom's talking about. My comment was about how Jacobs came out in a press conference and stated there won't be a rebuild in Boston.
Because that's what he's being told. Sorry.
And Kevin, there won't be a rebuild. To rebuild, you're moving Jeremy Swayman. You're moving Linus Ullmark. You're moving Charlie McAvoy. You're moving Hampus Lindholm. You're moving David Pastrnak. You're moving Brad Marchand. You move every tradable asset.
Yeah.
And start over. And the Bruins are not in the position to rebuild. They're just not. When you've got superstars on the roster.
They finished second in the division. They were one of the top teams in the NHL.
And you want your draft board to look like Arizona's with all the dots on it if you're going to be rebuilding, but all in the first.
I know what you're saying, Kevin, but you're putting that back towards Jacobs, and Jacobs is a businessman. He's not stupid. He realizes that Boston would riot if you traded everybody I just mentioned to go for a rebuild. That's why he said that the people in Boston will not accept a rebuild. And he's right.
Yeah, they won't.
They won't. I mean, the Celtics just won the championship last night, and everybody's laughing about the Bruins being this is a city that's won 13 championships since 2000. And they're saying, well, now the Bruins are the longest without a championship. And we're talking about a rebuild? No, Jacobs is not going to let a rebuild happen.
Yeah, Kevin, we know. We know it's not you. That's where the comment is coming from, but I think Court just nailed it. It's what he's being told from a guy like Sweeney, that he's not looking to rebuild, that he's trying to keep the team as involved in the race as possible without moving major pieces.
They don't need to. They're a good hockey team. Just Boston is the most spoiled sports city in the world, so they just expect championships every year, which is fine. But people need to realize there's 30 other fan bases across the league that would just love one season like the Boston Bruins. Like it's hilarious. But I am real sorry, guys. I gotta go.
I was gonna say I was just noticing the time. We appreciate you jumping on. Thank you so much, Court. We'll hopefully have you on again very soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Love it, Court. Was a great time.
Thanks.
Put that little one to bed, eh?
That's what I'm gonna go do right now.
Take care. Bye. Well, thank you to Court for jumping on with us for a bit here. I know, Dom, you mentioned that it was a pretty busy week, and we really kind of just dove in from there with the hiring of the coach and so on. But you mentioned something else too. We know that Oscar Steen won't be back.
Oscar Steen won't be back. Derek Forbert won't be back.
And I think Lauko won't be back.
Lauko's under contract.
Oh yeah, that's right, he is.
Those are two for sure that are testing free agency. I heard rumblings about Walsh. I forget his first name now.
Riley
Walsh. That he's a Group 6, that he may be testing the waters.
Interesting. I mean, they have a lot of it's kind of funny because now they do have a good amount of depth on the right side of that defense. Like it's not great depth, but as long as everybody's healthy and they can fill in that extra third spot on the left, you've got decent depth on the right side.
Yeah. And let's not forget, Wotherspoon can move over.
Yes. I think right now the plan is to put Peak and Wotherspoon together with Wotherspoon on his offside. I don't like that plan for 82 games. So
no.
I'd like to see them go get someone to add to it. And I'll have to go back and look at some of the games for Vegas this year to see if I can. I really admittedly didn't pay as much attention to Martinez this year.
Ian Walsh.
Ian, who am I thinking of? Riley
was the draft pick, is he not? Yes.
I don't know.
No, that's Ryan Walsh. It's Ian Mitchell.
Yeah, Ian Mitchell and
Riley Walsh.
Riley Walsh. Morgan Riley. I don't know.
Yeah. But it sounds like the writing's on the wall for Matt Grzelcyk to be gone.
Yeah.
And
here's a question for you about Grzelcyk. If it was a very low AAV, would you
No.
consider bringing him back?
No, absolutely not. I don't care that they're bringing in a coach to coach the defense, but I would not.
I wouldn't either, not because I don't like the player, not because I don't think he would have anything to offer. I just think it's time. And I think the role that you need filled on that left side is more of a defensive guy.
Yeah, and 2 coaches now for multiple seasons have healthy scratched him in the playoffs.
Yeah. They have enough guys, as Kevin says, who can do what Grizz does, but better.
Exactly. He's hit it right on the head there.
They need something different. What I don't. I want to go back to what Court was talking about. What are your thoughts on a guy like Matt Duchene? Would you do a deal like that?
To me, it depends on what else is done.
Sure.
Like any one move is not going to help this team or make it significantly better. I think they need to make the 3 moves that, we've talked about in the past. You need that center. You need another winger who can put the puck in the net, and you need another defenseman.
Matrix mentioned Nikolai Ehlers earlier. Want to make sure that we touch on that comment at least. Is he? I feel like he's more of a third line guy on a cup contending team. Maybe a second line guy on a
just the cost to acquire him.
Yeah.
It's what we have to consider is the cost to acquire, and the Bruins don't have much in tradable assets. You've got Allmark, you got Lowry. Do you really want to trade Lowry? Because now you've created another hole.
Yeah, I think I saw his name mentioned in I forget who it was. Oh, it was connected to Draisaitl. That the only way they would give up Mason Lowry is if they were getting Leon Draisaitl, basically.
I think Leon Draisaitl's a pipe dream.
I do too.
I really do.
I think Frank Saravalli had a breakdown where basically over the next couple of years, he thinks the way it's going to work out for Edmonton between McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard. I think it was Bouchard. Yeah, Bouchard. They'll collectively make about $40 million, and that's I want to say it was 14, 12, and 8 or something like that was his breakdown.
Okay, so $40 million for McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard, and
because by the time it happens, the cap should be above $100 million.
Right, and then you've got the Leafs at what is it, $50 million for Marner, Nylander, Tavares,
yeah,
and Matthews. Give me Edmonton every time.
Yeah, Oilers will be the new Leafs. Not quite, because at least that defenseman in Evan Bouchard can play defense and can dish the puck. You're not investing in 4 forwards. I would much rather have Draisaitl and McDavid and Bouchard than that collective group of 4 forwards with, their best defenseman is Morgan Riley. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not liking that. Kevin said, speaking of Edmonton, they're winning again tonight.
Edmonton's going to win. They're coming back.
I can totally see it, especially after the game that they just had. Like, now that they realize that they can actually beat and it's okay to score on Bobrovsky, I could totally see Bobrovsky melting down. And if you look back earlier in the season, I forget who had the statistic, but every single time the Edmonton Oilers lost 3 games in a row this year,
they went on a winning streak.
They've gone on to a winning streak of at least 5 games or more. One of them was 5 games, one of them was 8 games, one of them was 16 games, and there was another one in there for a while. So, Kevin,
I agree with you, Kevin. Totally.
0-7. Bear Force 1, I don't think JVR will be back. I don't think so either.
No, I don't. I don't know. Yeah, if they acquire Lindholm, Here's what I'm looking at. A first line is Zach, Lindholm, Pasternak. Yes, to me, any line that Pasternak on is the top line.
Yeah.
Then the second line of Marchand, Coyle, and you need a right winger. A third line of Frederick on the left, Geeky on the right, two guys who can take faceoffs, two big bodies around Matthew Poitras on the third line. And then a fourth line of Lauko, Beecher, and Brazeau. Doesn't leave much room for JVR, especially if you're bringing Heinen back.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they haven't shut the like when they sit there and say this, a guy like Oscar Steen is going to test free agency. They've made their decision that we're not offering him a contract. So go ahead and start calling other guys because we're not offering you something. I think with JVR, the difference would be they want to leave that door open because they don't know what some of those other, like, they don't know if they're going to get Lindholm. If they don't get Lindholm, or let's say they even do get Lindholm, they may know that they can get JVR back on a fairly reasonable dollar amount, and they can plug him in for another season or two.
Yeah, but where? Given the lineup I just gave you, where?
Middle six wing. I don't know. Brendan does have a question. No love for Liesel, and then Shaz, do you think Liesel has a chance to at that two right wing spot, which we'll come back to in a minute? And then what do you think is plan B if they miss out on Lindholm? So
Stevenson.
Stevenson for sure at the center position. I'm just saying, I think that JVR is the kind of guy they could bring in and then see if it pushes someone like Liesel as well. Because if you can bring JVR in on a reasonable, a $1.5 million AAV.
No, I don't think so, because
I don't think,
as Cord said, you're going after another guy too, for a wing, like a Toffoli or something.
I would like to, yes. That's
right. There just is no room for JVR. I'd be disappointed if they brought him back. I
don't see him coming back. I think it's just one of those things where you're not burning the bridge by saying, go look with other teams.
Yeah, but you don't want to lead a guy. You don't want to do that to a player. Like, right. You tell them, like, we would like to bring you back. We don't think we can. You allow them. It's just common courtesy to let that player go and test the market.
Shaz says they totally misused JVR, in my opinion. I think a lot of it was he just got sick.
That's exactly what it was.
I don't think they misused him at all. I mean, if you look at his goals, he scored the way he normally does. It just, he got sick and missed, 2 months? Almost? A month and a half?
Yeah. So I look at it like this with JVR. I don't want him on my first two lines. Okay? Do I want Matthew Poitras developing in the NHL? Yes, I do. So who do I want him playing with? Trent Frederick and Morgan Geeky, who he has shown chemistry with.
Yes.
Two bigger bodies, one especially that can protect them.
And Frederick showed that he can find the back of the net.
Yeah. So where is there room for JVR? He's not a fourth liner for me.
Now, Kevin, you're just going to have to clean up that mess yourself. Just saying.
Yes.
Let's get back to Shaz's question. Do you think Liesel has a chance at the two right wing spot? I know we've talked about Liesel a lot, and we did a lot in the prospect breakdown we did a week and a half or so ago. I think he'll have every chance for it. His offseason is what's going to dictate whether or not he actually has a true chance at it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people say that he's got to force him to be on the opening night roster. No, he doesn't. If he has things he needs to go work on in Providence, that's where he deserves to go. And then if he's ready by Christmas, call him up. Nobody's being handed a roster spot.
No. I think he'll be given the opportunity to take it.
Right.
It's up to him to take it. Matrix
Yep.
says, I'd love to Foley and Stevenson on the Bruins. Let's see. Brendan says, I really think Stamkos solves a lot of holes. 1C, short-term risk, good voice for the kids. Slide Zacha to left wing, gives Liesel a window of opportunity at top 6. I don't see Stamkos leaving Tampa. I just
Neither
don't.
do I.
Not the
I
kind
think
of guy that leaves. That, like, he's been a Lightning for life, and I think they work something out.
I think they find a way to make the money work.
I mean, think about it. We made the money work with Bergeron for years after his big contract rolled out. Chara, same thing. Chara just wanted a bigger role. I just don't see that Stamkos gets in that kind of, pissing contest with the team. He knows his role is going to change. He knows he's going to make less. It's just a matter of finding the ground of where that meets. Mike up here says Brady Tkachuk's name seems to be out there in the rumor mill. He would be a great Bruin addition, would cost us Swayman plus another player. I think he's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than just Swayman, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that you would probably end up building around Swayman and Poitras or Swayman and Lohrei. If not all three.
If not all three.
Yeah. Let's see. Shaz says you have a player like JVR if you have D that actually shoot from the point to tip or get rebounds, which our D didn't do enough of. Defense just didn't shoot in the playoffs. But JVR also wasn't playing all the time in the playoffs either. So it wasn't a matter of misusing JVR. He still got his goals. He would have been on a 30-goal pace this season if he didn't get sick?
Oh, I forget what he was at when he got sick.
So something like that. Kevin says Frederick should be in pen for that third line. It's his to lose. I think you pencil him in for that third line with a chance to erase him and move him up to the second line.
Yeah.
That's why it wouldn't be in pen for me, Kevin. Stevenson doesn't move the needle for Kevin. I don't think you can appreciate. I don't think you appreciate what he's doing in Vegas enough. Then, Kevin, you should be excited to get a guy like Stevenson in the lineup. I'm not saying he's a 1C. He's not a 1C, but he's a much better 2C than what you have on your roster right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything, first of all, that forces Zacha to the left wing is a good thing.
Yeah. Zacha plays better on his left wing. All season, we saw it. If there's an injury and you need to move him over to the right, to the middle, I'm okay with it, but let's see. As a first-line center, no, and that's what they need. I just said he's not a first-line center, Kevin. I said he's a second-line center. But there is no true number one center on the market right now because they don't go on the market. You're going to get a 1D center at best in Lindholm, or you're going to get a number 2. That's just how it works. 1Cs don't hit the market. Peter wants to know if Freddie and Geeky get extended.
Depends on the money. I will say this. I think they try to extend them.
Absolutely.
Do they? I don't know. It depends on the money. Like
one of
do
them.
Do they want to extend DeBrusk? Yeah, but DeBrusk has priced himself out of town. So,
yeah, I feel like I think one of them is going to get traded, and the other one gets extended. I think you're going to have to pick between the two. Honestly,
I think they got enough money the following year to not worry about it.
Maybe. I would love to see them both come back, but again, it all comes down to the money. Let's see.
Yes, we know that, Kevin. But the thing is, you need somebody to push Zacha to the wing. Okay, as Chris said, there isn't a true number one center out there available. Like if there is, name them. I've missed them.
Right.
So is Stevenson an improvement on Coyle? Yes. So you went with Zach and Coyle down the middle last season. Now you're going Stevenson Coyle, but you've also just improved your wing because you've moved Zacha to the wing.
Right. And Stevenson is better than both of them at center. So he by then default is your number one center. I'm not saying he is a league's number one center, Kevin says there are better than Stevenson. Okay, Kevin, name them. Name them. Yes, Lindholm, we know. Okay, other than Elias Lindholm, name the centers out there that are better than Chandler Stevenson across. I'd put Lindholm on a first line, no problem.
Yeah, but we're saying
other than that, Kevin, other than Elias Lindholm,
yeah.
give me a name. Give me 3 names. Yes, Shaz has it right here. Their best shot at getting a 1C will be in the draft. The problem with that, Shaz, is they don't have a high enough pick. They have to hit a grand slam on a guy in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round in order for that to happen. It doesn't happen as frequently as we would like. So it's possible. That is how they were going to have to do it, though. And to your comment back here, until he proves otherwise, Frederick is not a second-line winger. I totally agree with you. That's why I said I would pencil him in on the 3rd line and let him know he can take a spot on the 2nd line if he earns it. It's on him to go out and get it. Let's see. Bear Force 1 says to get a guy like Brady Tkachuk, I think you were looking at someone like McAvoy going the other way. For Ottawa, I think they would go a little younger. I think they would want Lori and Swayman to start. And again, at that point, you might have to throw in. It's a pipe dream. Honestly, I think Brady Tkachuk is a bigger pipe dream than Leon Draisaitl, if I'm being honest with you. I can at least understand.
We're not trading Tkachuk.
No, I can at least understand the Oilers going, well, we don't really want to look at this kind of money for 3 guys, so we'll move on from them. Brady Tkachuk is not a guy that they, especially after you see what happened to the Flames after they moved Matt Tkachuk. They're not doing. Jason said, any chance they go for Monahan?
Yes, there's a chance. It
Sure.
depends on who they miss out on.
Yeah,
Like he might be 3rd on the list, but if they miss out on 1 or 2,
now he's first.
Now he's first.
Kevin says, if they don't get Lindholm, I'm not wasting my time with someone like Stevenson. That's all I'm saying. It's a lateral move, slightly better at best. It's
not lateral. Okay, Stevenson Coyle down the middle is better than Zach Coyle down the middle.
Right, and you even said it. It's a lateral move, slightly better at best. I'll take slightly better.
It's moved Zaka to left wing where he belongs, and he is much better. You've now improved your left wing. So by acquiring the one player, you've just improved 2 positions. How is that lateral?
And slightly better gets you to Game 7.
Yeah.
It is slightly better is what got you past the Toronto Maple Leafs into round 2. I'll take slightly better. Point is there's one word in there that I like, and that's better. I want to get better. Period. End of story. If there's a move out there that's not Lindholm and not Stevenson that you think makes you better than Stevenson does, but maybe not as good as Lindholm does, I'd love to hear it. Brendan says, do we know what the rumored return might have been for alleged Ullmark to LA that didn't go through?
I don't, because I've always said it wasn't LA. So
I've heard a different team out there too. I never heard LA confirmed. I know that it's been, I'm sure
it's been speculated.
Yeah. I've heard LA probably, and I'm sure they probably picked up the phone and asked, and I'm sure there was some conversation of, hey, Linus, we got a call from LA. They're interested. Any chance you'd waive to go to LA? No. All right, cool. We'll let them know. A conversation like that probably occurred. No doubt in my mind it probably occurred. But I don't think it got to it. Did he nix that? Yeah, that's technically him nixing the deal. I think there was a team that was higher on him, though. That was literally putting forth an offer. Let's see. Or they have another bridge year and they sign Stevenson. They have a first in 2025.
Yeah, but it's not going to be in a position where it gets them a number 1 center.
Right. It's either going to be like a 23rd or higher, we'll say, 20 to 32. Or if it's that high, chances are you moved it because you were trying something. But Shaz says, not expecting a cup this year. I agree. I'm not expecting one, but I think you do everything you can to try to go and get one. Kevin says, I'm all set. on the center market. Well, that's because you can't name someone who's better than Stevenson, Kevin. If there's a name out there, just give me one name now. I'm asking for one name. I'm dropping 2 off the list requirement. Give me one name. He says I'd sign Steven Stamkos over Stevenson too. Give me one name that you have a shot at signing. Stamkos isn't leaving Tampa. He's just not. And you know it, Kevin. I know you better than that. You know he's not leaving Tampa. Let's see.
Who's this Kevin guy you keep talking to?
Oh. Let's see. Peter wants to know, if you were to put a bet on who starts the year at second line right wing, who would it be?
How much am I betting?
Yeah, right. That's the big question.
I'm going to say Morgan Geekie.
It's not a bad option.
That's until they bring somebody in, right? Like,
yeah,
they could sign somebody on July 1st, and
he says you're betting $100.
Okay, I'll say Morgan Geekie. With the caveat that if they sign somebody July 1st, I get to switch it.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, yeah. With that asterisk next to the bet, then I would put my money on Jake DeBrusk. I think they're going to try to get something worked out there.
I think they're too far apart.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Bear Force 1. I think Olmark was to the Sharks for Hurdle. I don't think so at all. I really don't, because the only reason why what's that?
Why would San Jose want Olmark?
I was going to say, yeah, the only reason why San Jose took 2 goaltenders took a goaltender in return in their deals this year is because they were shipping out goaltenders that teams wanted. Like, they got Mackenzie Blackwood because he was a reclamation project and he was someone that they could sign for cheap, who they could play games and basically say, come here, reset your market, and we can move you later. And then that's what Kokkonen did. He got moved to New Jersey because New Jersey wanted to improve their goaltending, but the only way they could make it work was by sending a goaltender the other way. So the Sharks were not shopping for goaltending. That's Brendan wants to know who we think it was. I haven't had it confirmed, so I'm not throwing it out there. But I've heard it was a different team, not the Kings. Dom, if you want to throw a team out there, I'll let you. But
how about Martin Nietzsche's as 2 right wing? You skipped over that one.
No, I was getting caught up on a couple other ones here. How about Martin?
We talked about that one at length earlier in the podcast.
Yeah, I don't see it. Kevin says I'd take Duchesne over Stevenson. Not for center. Duchesne's career now is as a left winger.
Yep.
If I had to pick between the two, and if the money was going to be the same, I'd go with Stevenson just because I need the center more, because I can move Zacco to the wing. But if Duchesne comes in cheaper, I'll take Duchesne over Stevenson. I'd rather save a few bucks on the cap and have Duchesne. I don't hate Duchesne, Zacha, Pasternak as a line. I think Stevenson is more important. I'm curious why it's a hard pass on Duchesne for you, Shaz. And then there was another comment. Oh, thoughts on Domi?
Toronto's trying to re-sign him.
I think he wants to be in Toronto. I think he wants to stay. So Kevin says Duchesne can still play center, just stick him with Kelly all summer. Duchesne's cooked as a center, man. It is. Shaz thinks Duchesne's a locker room cancer. I mean, they loved him down in Dallas. No, there were no issues with him down in Dallas. And I think the issue that you're referring to, I think you're confusing him with Johansson. Johansson's the one that was causing problems in the Nashville locker room. Because as soon as he went to Colorado, Colorado did everything they could to ship him out of town. And then as soon as he got to Philly, they DFA'd him. Like, Johansson was the one who was a problem, not Duchesne. I think I'm not sure how old management in Nashville felt. I think they felt they were a duo, and so they split them up in different deals. But Kevin says everyone has a locker room cancer apparently until we get them, and there's no issues.
Yeah.
No, I just think he's all right. If that's not what you've heard, then please share with us what you've heard about Duchesne being a locker room cancer, because I haven't heard anything about Duchesne being a problem in Dallas. Bear Force One also says only other teams I could have seen looking for a goalie in the West would have been Oilers and Avs. Yeah. I'm sure they both called on Linus Ullmark at some point too. Unless they know they're on his list. But let's see. Mike says, I wouldn't be surprised that Sweeney does something at the draft or free agency that we don't see coming. I agree.
Mike, I've been saying that for weeks on here. Like, here's the thing. The Bruins are being linked to just about everybody out there.
That tells me he's doing a job.
No. I'll tell you what it should be telling you. Mike, you have to decide what is clickbait, who is trying to get you to click on the article so they can get some numbers and make some advertising revenue, and what is real. Because I'll tell you, Don Sweeney cannot talk to any agent, any player, anyone out there who's about to become an unrestricted free agent. He can't. It's not allowed. So how are the Bruins being linked to these players? That's somebody writing an article trying to get you to click on it so they can make some advertising revenue.
We deal with just the facts here.
I refuse to deal in that's how many times have I refused to talk about player X or player Y because it's just not real, Chris.
Oh, I know. I totally get it. And I agree with Court that when Canadian teams are talking about something, it gets out more. Like you said,
that's trades. That's trades.
I know. But what I'm saying is when it comes to players' names being mentioned, I'm sure things get out there that are secondhand, third hand. We all played the game telephone growing up.
No. Let me stop you before we go any further because I've just corrected everybody. The Bruins are linked to Steven Stamkos. Who's linking them? Because they can't have a conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
The Bruins are being linked to Elias Lindholm. Who's linking them? Because they can't have a conversation. It's just false reporting.
I think a guy like Lindholm comes up because they were in talks to trade for him.
So was linked to him then, not is linked to them.
I agree. People are taking it and running with it and trying to put a new spin on it. Kevin says Duchesne is the thing that you don't see coming. Duchesne was huge for Dallas year, had a hell of a season. Absolutely. I see Peter's question. I'm going to come back up to that one in a second. What's a possible Stevenson contract look like if he's 29, 5 or 6 by 6? I don't know. I'd have to look at it more to do a better projection on it, honestly, Brendan.
Depends on how many teams come calling.
Absolutely.
If there's only one, it'll be less than that. If there's a dozen, it's going to be more than that.
Yep. BG says no one knows what Sweeney will do. He makes moves no one even talks about because Sweeney doesn't leave.
Horseshit. That's not true. I'll just leave it at that.
Kevin says, okay, I'm going to give you this. If they get Stevenson, he has
Go back to that one.
This one?
Yeah. If that had said most of the time, I would agree with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, most people got blindsided by the Orlov and Hathaway deal.
Yeah, everybody did.
Absolutely. Rob says, be careful. Dom.Hockey, big time clickbait.
Yeah, okay.
Shaz, he says, was in Colorado and Nashville. Was what? I know you're referring to Duchesne, but he was not a cancer in Colorado and in Nashville. He wasn't. Nashville was, he was there with, both of those teams also had Ryan Johansson on them. Johansson was the one that was a problem. Matt Duchesne was not, did he have issues? I'm sure he probably did, but he was not a quote unquote locker room cancer in those locker rooms. Kevin says, okay, I'm going to give you this. If they get Stevenson, he has some good qualities that I like. If they can put him with Pasta and Zaka and his point total increases, I'll eat crow. Sounds good to me. We'll shoot it down and you can eat it. BG says, should have said sometimes. I think in free agency, no one knew the Bruins were signing JVR, Shattenkirk, Geeky, etc. last offseason. Yeah, also no one knew they were trading Taylor Hall either.
Right, but that's the way free agency works. Is right. They can't talk to anybody before 12 o'clock. The first contract is signed at 1 o'clock. And yeah, the news usually is leaked out in that hour before the contract gets filed with the NHL. So, officially, if you're announcing it before the NHL receives the contract, then yeah, you knew it was happening. I will tell you, I know when a contract gets filed because I get told by the NHLPA. But if Elliot Friedman breaks the news 5 minutes before it gets filed, then yeah, it got leaked.
Right. Kevin says, ask Dallas if he was a cancer because that team loves him. I could see him going back to Dallas. I really could, but I would not mind seeing him come to Boston. And I do want to get back to Peter's question here. Thoughts on Patrick Laine reclamation project?
He's still in player assistance program, right?
As far as I'm aware, he's still in the program. But I think the general question being, is it someone you would take a risk on trading for, trying to see if you can work with them and kind of get them back? And, I don't like the cap hit, and I don't think you have enough assets to trade for the guy to keep the cap hit low.
Exactly.
It's too much of a risk. He's at what, 8? I think he's at 8.7. No, he's not that high. 7.8 or something like that. I'll use roughly 8 because I know he's close to that number. At $8 million AAV for another 3 seasons, this season and 2 more, he's just too much of a risk to take on. Now, if you tell me I can get him at $4 million and Columbus eats half of it, okay. But
no, not okay. What are you paying for that to happen?
That's what I was going to say. You don't have the assets to make that happen, though. So I can't get him at the price I want without overpaying for him. It's not a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, you can't comment on the player without the details. So, first of all, what's it going to cost to acquire Laine? Okay, say they want your 2025 first. Okay, I can deal with that. Now, how am I going to get you to retain 50% of the cap hit for it to work for me? Well, we want Mason Lohrei and another A prospect.
And Brett Harrison.
Okay, that's too much for me.
Throwing a name out there.
At some point, you have to give us the details to be able to comment competently on the player.
Right.
Is he worth a reclamation project? Yeah. If I was trading you Oscar Steen's rights and let's say Quinn Olson's rights, sure. Then he's worth it for me.
Right.
But if I'm giving up a first round pick plus an A prospect plus another one for you to eat 50% for 3 years, then he's not worth it.
Right. And to that, I've had some people be like, "Oh, we'll get a third team involved and have them eat some of it. Now you can get them for $2 million." Yeah, but now you got to compensate that team too.
Yeah. And there's
up.
people talking about Columbus buying him out, and then you could sign him dirt cheap.
You can't buy him out while he's in the player assistance program, though.
Right.
So, I don't. Same thing with Skinner. If he gets bought out, sure, absolutely be in on him. If you can get him for dirt cheap and he's bought out, but the buyout for his contract, I don't think is, because he's 26 now, so it's a 2/3 buyout.
Yeah.
And so that would be what, 8, 16, 20 something. Yeah, it's just not going to be worth. It's not worth the money going down the road. So,
no.
Kevin says, I'm going to have to come on at some point just to give Dom a headache in real time. Kevin, anytime you want, buddy.
I've got a headache already. Can't you tell?
Yeah. But with that, I do want to thank Court again for jumping on with us. Dom, do you have any final thoughts to wrap up? We're just after the 8 o'clock hour here. And
go Oilers.
Right. I want to see them come back into this thing. So I'm going to say it too. Go Oilers.
Can you just imagine how wild Edmonton is going to be for Game 6 if they win tonight?
Let's see it. I want to see it. Let's go.
I want to see it too.
Go Oil.